Our selection today will be Marching to Zion.
The oracles of the UCI, beginning at 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have favorite love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's Holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us. On this Sabbath, we're going to go into some things about the creation because there are a lot of things that we have to deal with here in the daughter of Babylon, and we have to prepare ourselves to leave these things in Babylon. One of the things that we find whenever there is a transition of power from the unrighteous to the righteous king comes in and he removes all of the things that were set up out of order. That's a very uncomfortable thing to do. It is so much easier to just go with the status quo of what everybody else is doing. It is very difficult to step out of line of what is the norm, as it is in just our everyday understanding of what is written in this book and how we're going to deal with those things here, understanding who we are. It would be much easier for us to just go the way that we were raised. It would be much easier for us to just do the things that we learned from our parents. But when we examine these things, we find out that those things were forced upon them. And after so much force, our people began to take wholeheartedly things that they never even made a decision to deal with. We didn't make that decision to deal with those things out of love and honor. We made those things out of fear of death. We were threatened with death. That is why we made those decisions. This is why even today, if you go up and ask people, what is the difference between one denomination or another? We cannot answer that question. And it is very sad that we're talking about 2019 and you have people that cannot answer the question as to why they are one denomination or another. This answers that question, that it was not our decision. So when it gets down to those things, we have to make sure that we understand why we do what we do, because the heathen doesn't believe that they have to answer for any of their things that they do, but they will surely push you to answer why you do what you do. And it is not a very fair situation, but in answering that, you may be able to save someone out of gross darkness. So we're going to begin today's sermon in Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to start that at verse 24. Genesis 1 and verse 24, and we're going to read that through chapter 2 and verse 9.
Verse 24. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of El created he him, male and female created he them.
So in the first part, you're then getting the understanding of the creation, but then as you go further down, it starts giving you details of the creation. For that reason, you have a lot of people saying that there are two different creations. This is where you then get the so-called first wife that Adam had of Lilith. This is where you start getting all these other things, but he clearly states here that he created them male and female. So people say, well, hey, he must have created male and female at the same time. That's not what he's talking about. He's giving you first what was done. Then as you go on, he then gives you the order in which that was done. Those are not two different creations. See, what happens when we get to a point that we can't explain, instead of waiting on our understanding, there are a lot of people that then come up with a doctrine. So this doctrine has then spread all over the earth because they couldn't figure out the part between here, because he already mentions male and female, he created them. Understand, at the point that this is being given to Moshe. He is not alive when any of this is happening. He is getting this after the fact. So of course he knows he made male and female. He was born, wasn't he? So this is not coming from a point of it just happened yesterday and then they wrote it down. Many, many generations have already passed before he is getting the information on this to write it down as a memorial for the children of Israel and thus the rest of the world. So of course they already know that he made them male and female. Go ahead.
Verse 28. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth.
And when you deal with in the days that these things were made, you'll find that these animals were created first. So when you deal with how much time is in between a day, we're dealing with Yahweh's time, not man's time. They just found the head of some dinosaur that they thought was like, what, 10 million years old? They can't even figure out really how old this thing is. There's a point at this creation where these animals were made first, but there's a long pause in between when man has the ability to then have dominion over these animals. So you have to look at this pause and understand the difference between Yahweh's day and man's day. They ain't the same thing. Go ahead.
And Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for me. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so.
So then man comes out of this earth, and then the food that man was made to eat also came out of this earth. even the beasts. Go ahead.
And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day Elohim ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which El created and made.
Right. So then the rest of the Sabbath has absolutely nothing to do with any religion. It has nothing to do with people will tell you that the Sabbath is for Hebrew Israelites or anything. This is for anybody that live on earth. Whatever religion they deal with, they are on his earth. There is no Israel. There is no organized form of religion. There's nothing at this point. Elohim rested on the seventh day. This is about him and his creation. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything that somebody else can deal with. But this is how we limit that and say, well, I worship the Lord, so I ain't got to worry about the Sabbath. So I asked him, okay, so what planet you worship your Lord on? Do you do it on this earth? All right, then. Well, you need to do it on the Sabbath. Simple as that. Unless you're going to Mars somewhere, you need to be dealing with the Sabbath because you are still dealing with his creation. Simple as that. And that's the way you have to minimize this talk about the Sabbath, because people will try to put this in some kind of religious context. But the same people will tell you that they earthly and they this. Well, if you believe in the earth, let's deal with this creation of it. He rested on the seventh day. This is the order that he set. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 4. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that Yahweh Elohim made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahweh Elohim formed man out of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
Right, and there is also much confusion about this part here. Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground. We have to first of all understand that this ground is a living entity. When you get right down to it, everything that basically sustains us, even us, have come forth out of this ground. And then you deal with Yahweh bringing that body to life by bringing or putting this breath into man, and then he becomes a living soul. When you deal with if somebody pass out or they stop breathing, first thing you got to do is blow air into them so that they can start back breathing. So there's something that is a little bit deeper than what we've been given when we deal with that. But we'll get into a little bit more of that a little later. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right. So then if you're going to deal with all of these things of the earth, Yahweh has that in order right here. Let's go to chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 18. Genesis chapter 2, and let's read verses 18 through 25.
Verse 18. And Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I'll make him an helpmeet for him.
Right. Now, when you first look at this, it looked like an afterthought. Like he thought about, man, I shouldn't really leave the man alone. But I mean, he automatically knew that when he made all the rest of the animals. He didn't make them by himself. But with man, he had to have a little system of order first. Now, All the other helpmeets were made from the exact same thing that their counterpart was made from, not man. Yahweh made sure man had a job, he had his purpose, he had some things going before he gave him this helpmeet. Go ahead.
And out of the ground, Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them on to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found any helpmeet for him. And Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man.
Right. This is pretty much, at this point, this is the only thing on the earth not made from the earth. Woman. She's not made the same way as everything else is on this earth, which makes her unique to everything else on the earth, which also makes her harder to deal with than anything else on this earth. She's not made like everything else. So if you plan on dealing with her like you deal with everything else, you're going to have you some problems. Go ahead.
And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man.
Not one time did you deal with any of the beasts was opened up and given they mate outside of that one. Didn't happen with the fowls. Didn't happen with any other thing on the earth. Except man. Go ahead.
Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed.
And were not ashamed. All right, let's go to chapter 3 and start that at verse 17.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 17. And unto Adam he said, Because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife.
Now, you have this one entity on the earth that was taken outside of its counterpart instead of being made exactly like it. Now, Yahweh said it was not good for man to be alone. Yahweh said, I'm going to make a helpmeet for him. Then you have in verse 17, Yahweh says, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife. Well, wait a minute, what'd you give her to me for? I couldn't listen to her. Now, you need to know when to listen to her. He gave you a helpmeet for a reason. And yes, you know, if you don't ever listen to your wife, I can tell you, you can go ahead and plan on a fall. I can tell you. Because there's sometimes that you are just on your way to something stupid. And somebody had to come in there, baby, don't do that. Baby, put that down. And if you don't ever listen, I can guarantee you're going to have this problem. But you got to figure out when that listening part is supposed to happen. See, now we're getting into something about righteousness and about how they're supposed to deal with Yahweh. This now causes the man a problem because he was already given instruction. And now he's letting someone override the instruction that he was given. Go ahead.
And unto Adam he said, Because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake.
Right. So this was not about him listening to the woman. This was about him listening to the woman over him. Remember, Yahweh says, I'm a very jealous Elohim. That same issue will cause you problems no matter who it is. Yahshua comes and reiterates that same thing. Whoever loves mother and father more than me is not worthy of me. See, there's some people that they can't change what they do unless they mama or they daddy change with them. There's some people that can't do certain things unless their counterpart does it with them. See, I'm not going to do this unless they do this. So we have developed this buddy system. I mean, it started in preschool. We had that buddy system. You know, you couldn't go to the water fountain without your buddy. And if they saw you by yourself, where is your buddy? You can't be out here in this hall without your buddy. You go to the bathroom, where is your buddy? And somehow we think salvation has got that buddy system. No. Ain't no buddy system in salvation. You're going to have to answer for that all by your lonesome. Go ahead.
In sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread.
Right. You're going to still eat the things that come from the earth, but now you're going to have to work for it because of your putting something else before Yahweh. Then we have to pause and look at how many things we put before Yahweh right now today. This is what got us into this situation. Not that he listened to the woman, but he listened to the woman over Yahweh. Yahweh had already given him instructions. Go ahead.
Till you return onto the ground. For out of it was you taken, for dust you are, and unto dust shall you return.
Unto dust you shall return. So now this instruction about burial has to be given unto man, because now there is going to be death because of this situation. Because in the beginning, they were never supposed to die. It was made like unto Elohim. So they were supposed to live forever. Now that there has been this transgression, the path has to be altered. He still has the ultimate plan that he wants for his creation, but the route in which that has to take now has to turn because of the actions that were taken. And this is one of the things that we have to remember: from dust you are, and to the dust you shall return. Because of our people being spread all amongst the four corners of the globe, having to be ruled over by the various nations of the earth, we have also picked up their practices. Some of those practices of cremation, you get into the things of the Romans. It was always a big thing to put the body on a raft, set the body on fire, and push it out to sea. Then you have some that want to get cremated, and then they take the ashes, go out in the water, and spread it out among the water. These are things that we have picked up, and these things we pick up because of the places that we end up. If some of our people ended up in South America, they end up worshiping the dead. So then that Halloween that we celebrate, this is their day of worship for the dead. And they trivialize it and make it easy for us to deal with it, and they push it to our kids. That's what the little movie Coco or whatever that is. You see the little dead people walking around. Yeah, that was a good little way to push the worship of the dead to your children. So then that way it won't seem strange to them when it's introduced to them later. But we're gonna give you a cartoon version of the dead, and it don't look so frightening as a cartoon. But when you get right down to the things of Halloween, this is why most of the costumes were things like half-dead people. They were skeletons. This was supposed to be the day that you worship the dead. They even made food offerings unto them. And if you go to the right person house from South America, you may end up going to the front door and seeing food all lined up at the doorstep. Creeped me out first time I saw it. That I was standing at somebody's offering for the dead. See, we don't do that. But see, you have to learn where our boundaries are and learn how to explain those boundaries. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 20. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahweh Elohim make coats of skins and clothe them.
Right. So then you have a sacrifice. There has to be blood shed to make atonement for sin. This was a sacrifice that Yahweh had to make so that they could be reconciled. You would just could not believe some of the doctrine that we have heard because of this thing, because they couldn't explain this. They said, unto Adam also and his wife did Yahweh make coats of skins and clothe them. For him to make a coat of skin, he has to kill that animal. There's a doctrine floating around that all the animals were skinless until this right here. So it was a bunch of skinless animals walking around, and then Yahweh put skin on them, so you could just see the muscles hanging out. You know, at this point, man, me and kids just looked at me. Are you serious, man? But see, that's the danger of wanting to listen to any and everybody talk. You will be so confused by the time you get to dibbling and dabbling with everybody's thought process. Yahweh didn't even explain what a sacrifice was. He just says he clothed them with coats of skin. First of all, they have knowledge now. So at the point that they have knowledge, you are held responsible. You can't walk around naked no more. A kid can walk around naked and not be ashamed. There's a point that kid get the understanding. He don't even want you in the bathroom with him no more. Don't come in here. Boy, ain't nobody trying to see your little weedy walk. Ain't nobody, I made that little thing, but I'm on the way. But once he gets to a certain point, him and her, they don't want you in there. Because they understand what nakedness is now. With knowledge comes the responsibility that comes after having that knowledge. So there's knowledge. They now know they're naked. Man, you can't walk around naked no more. See, I allowed you to walk around naked. Yahweh was enjoying his creation. I made this earth. I made you. I made her. I'm enjoying my creation. Oh, but now you know you're naked. Oh, man, you got to put some clothes on now. You can't walk around like that. Go ahead.
And Yahweh Elohim said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever.
Right. Why even make the tree of life? If you didn't want them to live forever. Well, I did. Until they did something stupid. I still want them to live forever. But something got to happen now. They can't live forever in this state. Go ahead.
Therefore Yahweh Elohim sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
Right. And even when you read the things about Melchizedek being a king and priest of Yahweh, Yahweh understands exactly what has to be done. The things that were made in his image. So the things that were set up on earth was a smaller version of the things that were set up in heaven. So it is pretty well known the path that is going to have to be taken at this point to set things in its rightful order. But this also creates a interesting scenario now, because now the adversary know the path too. So now that he knows what has to happen because of what has happened, oh, well, wait a minute now. I can set up something before he set it up. And I can make them think that his stuff is a duplicate and make them think that mine is the real one, because I already know the path. See, it don't take a genius. Once you look and you see one person create something and then it get tore up, and you look at somebody else over there, oh, I'm going to take all the stuff that I saw over here and I'm going to do it over here. But I'm going to twist it for my own purposes as I'm putting this together. Lucifer's very good at what he does. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
698.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
Chapter 3 and verse 1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted.
One of the things we talked about last week or so was in dealing with the lion and the lamb, there is a totally different purpose that is being fulfilled when Yahshua returns. It is not the same focus as he had being the lamb. So if you don't recognize what time you're in, you're going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's not going to be good. At the return of Yahshua, we are not getting a lamb. We are getting a lion. This is time for righteous judgment. And all the people that show up with flowers and poetry about to get killed. Because they don't recognize the time that we're in. Go ahead.
A time to kill, and a time to heal.
Mm-hmm.
A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace.
Mm-hmm.
What profit has he that worketh in that wherein he laboreth?
Right. So if we are in the mindset of thinking about peace, when Yahweh has sent his son Yahshua to come here and set forth righteous judgment on the earth, we're going to be heartbroken simply because we're expecting one thing and something altogether different is happening. See, when you talk about, there's a part in here where we read men's heart failing them for fear. Why? Because they're expecting one thing and something else is happening. You can't get your mind right if you're thinking for one thing. You're thinking that this is about to be peace and not understanding that war has to come first. Go ahead.
I have seen the travail which Elohim has given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He has made everything beautiful in his time. Also he has set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that Elohim maketh from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. And also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of Elohim. I know that whatsoever Elohim does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it. And Elohim does it, that men should fear before him. That which has been is now, and that which is to be has already been. And Elohim requireth that which is past. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that lawlessness was there. I said in mine heart, Elohim shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. I said in my heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that Elohim might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts.
Mm-hmm.
For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts. Even one thing befalleth them. As the one dies, so dieth the other. Yea, they have all one breath, so that a man has no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. All go unto one place. All are of the dust, and all turn to dust again.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goes downward to the earth?
Right. And what spirit is he talking about? The breath. The breath that was breathed into man that caused him to be a living soul, a man faces upward. A beast's mouth faces downward. Go ahead.
Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him?
All right. When you look at this, I want to read something in Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 7. It says, "Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto Elohim who gave it. It was the breath that was breathed into man, then he became a living soul. When a man then dies, that breath is no longer in him. That breath then goes back up into the air from whence it came. That body then is to return to the dust." Yahweh has an order. Yahweh has made man upright, but man has made many inventions. So we need to look up this word here that we deal with for spirit. And this word spirit in Psalms is, in our dictionary here, we have H7307, which is Hebrew, which is Ruach. You hear all the times, people talk about the Ruach. Now, listen to the definition. Wind, by resemblance, breath, sky, air, exhalation, etc., etc. There's a lot of other things that are listed within that. But then you have to deal with that when people are talking about all of these things about the Ruach, about the spirit. You then see that this is that air that is breathed into man. It's the one thing that they have to do a lot of times when a baby is born. That baby has come out of a enclosure of complete water. You have to make that baby breathe air. And once they slap that baby and make that baby, it can no longer breathe water again. It can no longer be underwater for 9 months. That's over. The state has been changed at that point. It's a done deal. Let's go to Psalms chapter 51. Versace church started at 1 o'clock. Psalm 51.
Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to your loving kindness. According unto the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my lawlessness, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me.
This is one of the greatest things that we can do to show Yahweh about our repentance. And it is the very, it ends up being the hardest things for us to do. I acknowledge my transgression, and my sin is ever before me. The first thing we do is go into defense mode and try to deny everything that's presented unto us, which is the opposite of repentance. And then what Yahweh does, all right, well, let's drag this thing out then. Because we can't acknowledge what is right before us. And we end up making more problems. Go ahead.
Against you, you only, have I sinned and done this evil in your sight, that you might be justified when you speaketh, and be clear when you judgeth. Behold, I was shapen in lawlessness, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you shall make me to know wisdom. You desire truth in the inward parts.
So there's a whole different level of truth that Yahweh requires. See, a lot of times before you get off into something, you got a lot of you first. So you had to convince you You know, this ain't gonna be that bad. You know what I'm saying? No, you can do this. You can do this. Come on, Sock. You ain't no punk. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. See what you scared for? You trembling? Shut up, nigga. Come on. See, you got to convince yourself of that lie. Then you go and do it. So by the time you go ahead and lie to somebody else, you done already lied to you a couple times because you had to practice it. See, you had to lie to you. See, that's a lie in your inward part. You ain't even told that lie yet. That lie was in here. So if you catch that lie in here, you can catch it before it come out of there. You can catch that lie when it's stirring up. Man, stop that. Folk like, man, what is wrong with him? What is that brother talking to himself? Now that brother's trying to get that lie out of here. Because that lie that's stirring up in here is going to eventually come out of there. There ain't nothing that came out of your mouth that wasn't contemplated in here first. Every move you make is thought about before you make it. You don't just walk down that hall and go get a drink of water. There was a thought. Give me some water. Right. And before you told a lie, there was a lie in your inward part before it came out of your mouth. And something caused you to be convinced that that lie was okay. And if you can find what that is, you can start catching that stuff before it come out of there. See, this is something that I had to entertain and deal with. Back in the days, I used to do comedy shows, and everything was fair game. I could say whatever foul thing came to my mind. Matter of fact, the nastier, the better, you know. Well, once I got out of that life, I had to start thinking about some of that stuff that came out of here. So y'all only hear half the stuff that come out of my mouth, because there's some stuff I'd be like, oh, no, shut up. You can't do that. If y'all heard some of that, it wouldn't be but two of us in here. Hey. See, I got to wrestle with that dude. See, I got to wrestle with that dude. All that stuff that come up in here can't come out of there. See? But I didn't have no choice but to do that. Because in one line, that was completely okay. Everybody applauded me for doing that. You get standing ovations for just thinking off the top of the head and saying whatever stupid thing comes into your mind. Yahweh didn't applaud it. He didn't applaud it. So I had to rearrange that. See, those are works within yourself that don't nobody see but you. So you ain't gonna get no accolades from other people that you did that work, but Yahweh know you did it. That's where you're gonna get your accolades from. Don't nobody know what kind of work I had to do that. Don't nobody know what kind of work I still have to do for that. Yahweh does though. Because he know what I came from. And he know what you came from. So he will recognize your labor of love. That ain't for everybody to see. Go ahead.
Psalm 51 and verse 7. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all my lawlessness. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right spirit within me.
Right. So, because before the deed was done, there was a thought and contemplation in the heart. Go ahead.
Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with your free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors your ways, and sinners shall be converted unto you. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O Elohim, you Elohim of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of your righteousness.
Right. This blood guiltiness goes in a level where Yahweh will not be mocked and will not be deceived. Yahweh didn't physically murder anybody with his hands, but he orchestrated the event. So he's 100% guilty. He has blood guiltiness. No amount of manipulation releases you from liability of the thing that was done. Doesn't matter that somebody else's hands did it. You manipulated it. Your hands are more responsible than the people you manipulated into doing it. Go ahead.
O Adonai, open you my lips, and my mouth shall show forth your praise. For you desireth not sacrifice, else would I give it. You delighteth not in burnt offering. The sacrifice of Elohim are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. O Elohim, you will not despise.
Right, because this broken heart and a contrite heart, this broken spirit, this is the place where change can be accepted. Before you plant something, you got to till that ground. You'll find that hard, red Georgia clay, you ain't gonna grow much in that right there. You ain't gonna grow much in that. But when you go in there and you start digging up that ground, start knocking it up, now it is in a place where it might be able to receive some seed. It might be able to produce something. So when we all hard like that Georgia red clay, Yahweh can't do nothing with us. He can send 10 people to talk to you about the word. I don't want to hear no word. Get up in front of me, boy. Then he let something happen to your life. And it till that ground a little bit. That ground get tilled all of a sudden. Hey, can you talk to me about that word again? You remember that time you had said something about Yahoo, Yahweh, Yahweh, somebody? Who was that? Oh, we done got tilled. Yeah, now we want to hear a little bit. That's what that tilling do for you. See? So when people like, oh, I ain't trying to hear, just wait till they get tilled. They'll take care of that business. Go ahead.
Do good in your good pleasure unto Zion. Build you the walls of Jerusalem. Then shall you be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon your altar.
Then those things can be done in righteousness, and then they can be accepted. We actually affect how our deeds, how our offerings are accepted by how we do them, or what is in our heart when those things take place. Now, one of the things that was up here, I want to say verse 11, it says, cast me not away from your presence and take not your Holy Spirit from me. So we then had spirit, which was Ruach, which was the wind, resemblance, breath, sky, air, exhalation. Then we have holy, which is Kodesh, and Strong's H6944, which is a sacred place or thing, holiness, saint, sanctuary, etc. So now when we put those together, we have this Holy Spirit, but understand where those things come from. So you have the Spirit, then you have the Holy Spirit. You have to consider some things. A lot of times, people will talk about, the Ruach, but is there any Kodesh in that? See, there's many spirits, but which one are you dealing with? So it's a little bit that we have to deal with if we're going to deal with all of this in righteousness. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5.
Second Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 1. For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of Elohim, an house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven.
Right, which our house which is from heaven. So without understanding the part of the air, this ruach that was breathed into the nostrils of man, and then when man passes, that ruach, that spirit, that breath returns to Elohim. Without understanding those things, it helps this whole heaven doctrine that we've been given. This is why you have to go home and fight half of your family about everybody going to heaven. Because every time anybody passes, when that breath is no longer in their lungs, it goes back to him that gave it. It goes back into the air from whence it came. So all the air goes back to heaven. That is not the individual. Go ahead.
If so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. Now he that has wrought us for the selfsame thing is Elohim, who also has given unto us the earnest of the Spirit. Therefore we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we're absent from the Adonai.
While we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Adonai. So this is what really helps people to believe, okay, as soon as I'm dead, I go to heaven. Keep reading.
For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Adonai.
Right. So when we talk about where that breath is going to go, when it is not in the body of that man, it is going right back to heaven from whence it came. And then there's a lot of things that we just do not consider. And people have asked me that question. I wouldn't get into it, and neither would my elder. There's a part where you get to reading in here where it's talking about the 24 elders. Now, these are people, redeemed from the earth who Yahweh has called, who are in heaven. People say, well, who are those people? I have no clue whatsoever. That is above my pay grade. Yahweh did not mention who those people are. And if I told you, I'd be speculating. And I don't like to do that. Because if that come out wrong, then Yahweh will be pulling me back to the back of the building. Sucker, I need to talk to you. Why Suck over there crying? Yahweh done called him to the back of that building? No. I like to stay in the front, please. No, because some bad happened when he called you to the back. Go ahead.
Wherefore we labor, that, whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of the Mashiach.
Now, you see how the one thing a couple of verses before is taken to help people believe that everybody goes to heaven, but they will not read the couple verses under that we must all appear before the judgment seat of the Mashiach. But if you just deal with to be absent from the body is to be present with the Adonai, boom, you're going to heaven. Keep on reading, and you start talking about judgment. Now, wait a minute. If we got to deal with judgment, there has to be a law by which we're going to be judged by. Because he can't just judge us without any type of standard. How righteous would that be? Go ahead.
That everyone may receive the things done in his body.
Everyone may receive the things done in his body. Go ahead.
According to that he has done, whether it be good or bad.
Right. And how is he going to decide what's good or bad? He's already given us that. We know that. Why? Because he gave us a holy and righteous law. We know what's good and bad. We don't have to guess about what's good or bad. There's certain things, because of being in the daughter of Babylon and how they've put things together, that you got to meditate on for a little bit before you can figure out whether it's good or bad. But most of the things we know almost right off. But then there are other things that you got to meditate on to figure out, wait a minute, this has been presented as is a good thing, but this is kind of shady. Go ahead.
Knowing therefore the terror of the Adonai, we persuade men. For we are made manifest unto Elohim, and I trust also are made manifest in your consciences. For we commend not ourselves again unto you, but give you occasion to glory on our behalf, that you may have somewhat to answer them which glory in appearance and not in heart. For whether we be beside ourselves, it is to Elohim, or whether we be sober, it is for your cause. For the love of the Mashiach constraineth us, because we thus judged that if one died for all, then we're all dead. And that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again.
Mm-hmm.
Wherefore, henceforth, know we no man after the flesh. Yea, though we have known the Mashiach after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. Therefore, if any man be in the Mashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new.
Right, and this is what we want. We want to be that new creature. Now, the baptism is the thing that officially starts that and brings that on. But to be born again is one of those things that we're going to have to wrestle with for the rest of our days, because we are creatures of habit, and we're going to automatically do those things that we're accustomed to doing. So at some point, we have to allow this creature to wrestle with itself. Even if we just on the road, if you drive here enough, you get anywhere near here, you'll just turn in the parking lot and realize it ain't the Sabbath. I've done it several times. Like, man, this ain't where you were going. All I had to do was get close enough here. And being a creature of habit, my hand said, well, turn right here. Okay, now turn right there. Now turn right here. And it's directing me. And I'm not even thinking at this point, this is not where I'm going. I got a GPS on my dash. The GPS saying turn right. I said, no, I got to be going left. Now, how did I end up in the parking lot? And the GPS is like, hey, dude, didn't I tell you to turn? What you doing? Creature of habit. That's why you got to wrestle with this inner guy. Because Lucifer has tried to put as much in there for his own purpose as possible. And you're going to have to wrestle to get it out of there. But don't think that everything Yahweh wants you to get rid of. There's some of that stuff he let Lucifer put there. Because at the end of days, it's going to work for Yahweh's purpose. But you got to let Yahweh rearrange it, though. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And all things are of Elohim, who has reconciled us to himself by Yahshua the Mashiach, and have given to us the ministry of reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
To wit, that Elohim was in the Mashiach reconciling the world.
Atonement. See, there's certain things that if you don't recognize what those words mean, you're not really understanding what Christ has done, what Yahshua has done. So you read reconciliation in the New Testament. If you don't backtrack those words, when we start talking about the Day of Atonement, Sunday church people said, there they go keeping that old stuff again. There they go dealing with that old mean God. I tell you, boy, they so lost. They don't know reconciliation means atonement. So not understanding the words, they feel justified in not dealing with any of the things of atonement. Go ahead.
Reconciling the world unto himself, not imputing their trespasses unto them, and has committed unto us the word of reconciliation.
And if you think about what it is saying here, you can clearly draw the line between that and atonement. But you have to understand what atonement is, though, for you to even be able to draw that line. And if people have told you to stay out the Old Testament, well, you're never going to have enough understanding to even make those points. Go ahead.
Now then, we are ambassadors for the Mashiach, as though Elohim did beseech you by us. We pray you in the Mashiach's stead, be reconciled to Elohim.
And look how many times he says this over and over and over and over again, right close to each other, and in reference to Yahshua doing what he had to do for man. Go ahead.
For he has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of Elohim in him.
All right. So then let's go now to Luke chapter 12. So we then see that we all have to go and stand before that judgment seat. This is why there are certain situations where Yahweh may take some early, especially when, we're in, even if somebody tell you, somebody dies 30 years old, that's young, that's a child. But if we're 30 years old and refuse to do anything right, the longer we live, the more charges we're getting stacked up against us. And it does not dawn on us that it's His grace that say, you know what, I may have to just separate this person, because if I allow them to keep living, they're going to add more harm against themselves and cause it to the point where they're not able to withstand judgment because they got too many charges against them. So you go to court with 1 or 2 charges, you might get probation. When you go to court with 32 charges, know for a fact you're going to jail. I don't care how many, of those, when you got 32 counts, they might throw out 1 or 2, but they ain't never throwing away 32 counts unless your name Epstein. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's about it. But other than that, if you look like us, you are not getting away with 32 charges. Not going to happen. Where we going, brother? Luke chapter 12, and let's start that at verse 34.
For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Let your loins be girded about, and your lights burning. And you yourselves like unto men that wait for their Adonai, or for their master, when he will return from the wedding, that when he comes and knocks, they may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, shall find watching.
Right. Blessed are those servants that when he comes, he find them doing what it is they're supposed to be doing. But see, sometimes we operate just like we operate on the job. Oh, the boss gone? Oh, so we partying in the back. Because somebody done told us that the boss gone. So y'all sure operate the same way. All right, I'm going to leave, but I ain't telling y'all when I'm coming back. Because I want to see who going to be working when I return. I want to see who going to be partying when I get back. And I want to see who going to be working when I get back. Go ahead.
Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. And if he shall come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. And this know, that if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched, and not have suffered his house to be broken through. Be you therefore ready also, for the Son of Man comes at an hour when you think not. Then Cephas said unto him, Adonai, speak you this parable unto us, or even to all? And the Adonai said, Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his master shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant, whom his master when he comes shall find so doing. Of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he has. But and if that servant say in his heart, My master delays his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink, and be drunken.
It says, my master delays his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and the maidens, and to eat and drink, and to be drunken. See, they partying because they think they got more time. Go ahead.
The master of that servant will come in a day when he looks not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him in sunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers.
Will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. Why? Because that's who he's been hanging out with. He's been hanging out with the unbelievers. Say, all right, so I'm going to give you your part with them. But I ain't going to come when you think I'm going to come. That way, I can catch you and expose the true nature of your heart. Go ahead.
And that servant which knew his master's will, and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes.
Why? Because he knew and still did otherwise. Go ahead.
But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes.
Now, so check this out. You in the word, you spend most of your time hanging out with heathen, you're going to get beat worse than the heathen. Because Yahweh, no. I know you knew. No. The heathen, I'm going to give him about 2 or 3 stripes. But you're going to get 23. I know you knew. Go ahead.
For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. I am come to send fire on the earth, and what will I, if it be already kindled? But I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how am I straitened till it be accomplished? Suppose you that I am come to give peace on the earth?
Listen.
I tell you, no, but rather division.
Right, and say that to people and they'll swear you in a cup. They'll swear for God you in a cup. And they're in the biggest cup known to man. But they'll swear you in a cup. Now, all this stuff is written in red. This is the word of Yahshua. Suppose you that I am come to give peace on the earth? I tell you no, but rather division.
People are like, what kind of God is that? What do you serve? There ain't no love in there. Should be love and togetherness.
How can 2 walk together unless they be agreed? We can't have togetherness with 2 opposing doctrines. Go ahead.
For from henceforth there shall be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3.
Right, and people will say, there's something wrong. There ain't no love in your house. There ain't no love. You had love in your house before. No, I had togetherness in wickedness in my house. Everybody was together in wickedness. So it appeared like there was togetherness. If you got 5 devils and they all worship the devil, oh my goodness, that sounds like peace. That sounds like peace. You want to go worship the devil? Yeah, I do. Come on, baby. Hurry up, baby. We won't be late. Lucifer gonna miss us. It seems like togetherness. See? But when you start dealing with this doctrine, see, this is the thing that people don't want to deal with. That's why they do all those conferences and things like that. Because all you got to do is talk about being Israel over and over and over again. But after you find out you're Israel, okay, what happens after that? We can't just keep getting together, partying, and talking about we Israel every week. Go ahead.
The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against the father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law.
People say, no, I don't want that. I don't want this word here. See, I need peace. I need peace. Even if it's got to be peace and evilness. No, I will not accept that. I'd rather fight for righteousness' sake and go ahead and let whatever has to be divided in my house be divided in my house. Then that is the sacrifice that I offer up to Yahweh, my Elohim. Rather than have a peace and wickedness. Go ahead, brother. Did you finish that?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to Matthew chapter 18. See, this that part when you get your baptism in the word and it starts to throw you off. Like, wait a minute. Now, why am I, having issues? Because Yahweh is starting to feed you with doctrine, and you can't have that ignorant bliss anymore. Well, they say ignorance is bliss. Well, you don't have any knowledge of the danger that you're standing in. You're just as happy. Completely ignorant, but just as happy. Then when that knowledge comes about, oh, this is how this is supposed to go. Oh, wait a minute. Now I got to do something about this. Now it starts working on your heart. Matthew chapter 18, and let's read verses 1 through 6.
At the same time came the disciples unto Yahshua, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahshua called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except you be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Right. And we know that the heart of a child is totally different than the heart of adults. Children have a level of curiosity that allows them to learn on a different level. It also allows for anger to go away much quicker. Those children will have issues, and those things will be gone almost immediately. With us, we have learned by the situations that we have encountered, and each one of those encounters has left something with us in our heart. And then that goes into our processing in the next situation that we have. See, if we have a situation where we went to talk to somebody and we were trying to have a peaceful conversation and they punched us in the eye. Now the next time somebody say, hey brother, I want to talk to you. Now you thinking about that punch in your eye. You want to talk to me? You want to talk to me? Say, yeah brother, I want to talk. Pow! You don't haul off and hit him. What you hit him for? What? Because you processing the last time you got punched in the eye. Now, hit this person. I just want to talk. Now you like, uh-oh.
So you wasn't gonna punch me in my eye? Uh-oh, I done punch you in yours though, didn't I?
Now we got a situation going on here. That person wasn't even thinking about hitting you. But now that's in your processing. The children are absent of that. That hasn't happened to them yet. They're able to deal with things without all the negative things that we got in our past. So their processing is pure. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receives me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea.
So then you have to look at this on several levels. You have the situation of the children of Israel. They are his little ones. And then you have that in the spirit. And then that in the flesh is just children in general. And people will tell you that when those people who harm children go to jail, they have a hard time. Because even the thugs don't like them. They comfortable around murderers, rapists, and thieves. Oh, but them people that harm children, oh, they got a special hate for them. And they just, they just a different kind of evil. But they don't like that evil right there. So they normally have to put them somewhere else to hide them. That's why Epstein trying to get, look, something happened to me. I just woke up. I don't know what had happened. I don't know, somebody must have done something to me. Please move me back to that other jail I was in, the one with the golf course and the cappuccino machine. What?
This time I'll only be gone 5 days a week, not 6.
Right. Did you finish that, bro?
Yes.
Let's go to Matthew chapter 19, and I want you to start that at verse 13.
Verse 13. Then were there brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked them. But Yahshua said, Suffer little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven.
Right. The kingdom is likened unto these children. If you actually pay more attention to them, you will understand what is being expected of you. So while you're forbidding them to come unto me, you might want to watch them, because they got a better chance in getting into the kingdom than you do. That's something we don't even consider. See, we think without much knowledge that we got up on. Them chilling in that other room over there, they got a better chance than all us. They walking in. Us, that line get long. Ah, stop. All right, come here. Let's talk. Oh, children ain't got to talk. Them children, come on in, go on in, little boy. Little girl, go on in. No, your dad, stop right here. You talk, boy. Yeah, we got to open this book up. Let's talk about some of these deeds. Right. The kids not getting stopped. They just going right through. They ain't got nothing to be judged for. Did you finish that, bro?
And he laid his hands on them and departed thence.
All right. Now, let's go to Exodus chapter 30. So we can get a little bit more understanding on that. Exodus chapter 30. And we're going to read verses 11 through 16.
Exodus chapter 30 and verse 11. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, When you taketh the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto Yah. When you numbered them, if there be no plague upon them, when you numbered them, this they shall give, every one that pass among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half a shekel shall be the offering of Yah. Every one that pass among them that are numbered from 20 years old and above,
From 20 years old and above, go ahead.
shall give an offering unto Yah.
Right. This is then the age of accountability. Sometimes, of course, coming out of that Christian understanding, we've had people that came from other states to get their baptism and having those. That's why we have to get those things out of us bit by bit. And I know they didn't know any different, and I didn't know any different until I got in the Word. But there will then be people that say, can you baptize me and my child? No, I can't baptize your child. Your child has not reached the age of accountability. Child don't need baptism. The child cleaner than you, boo-boo. The child not going to get stopped at the gate. You are. Go ahead.
The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel, when they give an offering unto Yah, to make an atonement for your souls. And you shall take the atonement money of the children of Israel, and shall appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, that it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before Yah, to make an atonement for your souls.
Right. So then we have this age of accountability, and now let's see that in action. Let's go to Numbers chapter 14. Numbers chapter 14, and we're going to start that at verse 11. We're going to read verses 11 through 31.
Verse 11. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, How long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be? And how long will it be ere they believe me, for all the signs which I have showed among them?
So it was a serious thing of disbelief, because our people were able to see the miracles that were done by Yahweh. We were able to see the cloud. We were able to see the fire. We was able to see all of these things that took place, and we still question Yahweh. So it was a serious problem. We have to consider what is written. Signs are not made for believers. They're made for unbelievers. Go ahead.
I will smite them with pestilence and disinherit them, and will make of you a great nation and mightier than they.
This is one of the biggest things that can be said, disinherit. That's a pretty strong term to be used against Israel. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto Yahweh, Then the Egyptians shall hear it, For you brought up this people in your might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land, for they have heard that you, Yahweh, are among this people, and that you, Yahweh, art seen face to face, and that your cloud stands over them, and that you goeth before them by daytime in a pillar of cloud and in a pillar of fire by night.
Right. So at this point, he is going about to convince Yahweh that it will actually be against his holy name's sake if he does this to the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Now if you shall kill all this people as one man, then the nations which have heard the fame of you will speak, saying, because Yahweh was not able to bring this people into the land which he sware unto them, therefore he has slain them in the wilderness. And now, I beseech you, let the power of my Adonai be great, according as you have spoken, saying, Yahweh is long-suffering, and of great mercy, forgiving lawlessness and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation.
And this is a very, very bold thing to end up saying to Yahweh. To basically try to get Yahweh off of what he wants to do with Israel because of our repeated disobedience. It was actually in his favor to just be quiet. Say, I make a whole nation of you. So he put himself in harm's way to be an intercessor for Israel. Go ahead.
Pardon, I beseech you, the lawlessness of this people according unto the greatness of your mercy, and as you has forgiven this people from Egypt even until now. And Yahweh said, I have pardoned according to your word.
I have pardoned according to your word. Go ahead.
But as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of Yah. Because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him, and has followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereinto he went, and his seed shall possess it. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites dwelt in the valley. Tomorrow turn you, and get you into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and unto Aaron, saying, How long shall I bear with this evil congregation, which murmur against me?
Murmuring is something that is listed as completely evil. Yahweh gives us direction, and then we got something to say about it. That's what we hear constantly. Yahweh's word says, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. People say, well, every day is holy. Murmuring. I don't like what Yahweh got to say about the Sabbath. So we're going to reply, every day is holy. Murmuring. It is what he said caused us to be evil. Go ahead.
I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. Say unto them, As truly as I live, says Yah, as you have spoken in mine ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me.
Right. Cut off point. All of them 20 and above that murmur gonna die. But the children get to walk right through. Go ahead.
Doubtless you shall not come into the land, concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Yephani, and Yahshua the son of Nun.
Right. The only ones of those that were over 20 that's coming is them two. Everybody else that was 20 and above, they dying. Go ahead.
But your little ones, which you said should be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which you have despised.
They will know the land which you have despised. I'm going to pause this whole thing to allow all of that generation to die off, and I'm going to bring all of those children that you said were going to be a prey, and that something was going to happen to them out here. Those are the ones that's going to walk in. And we need to pay that some attention here. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 12. Second Samuel chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 15 through 23.
Verse 15. And Nathan departed unto his house, and Yahweh struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto Dawid, and it was very sick. Dawid therefore besought Elohim for the child, and Dawid fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth.
Right. A lot of times we want to move through certain stages. You have to give your all in the stage that you're in. He's in the stage where it is possible that Yahweh may give mercy and restore health unto the child. So he has to give that stage all, his all. See, we can't say, well, this ain't gonna work, so I ain't gonna do nothing. No. For you to be completely pure in what it is you're doing, you have to put your all in the stage that you are in. And that stage is right now, the child is still living, so you got to go with everything you can to preserve life. Go ahead.
And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them.
Right. He didn't want to talk to nobody. He didn't want to deal with nothing. He's worried about his child. Go ahead.
And it came to pass on the seventh day that the child died. And the servants of Dawid feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead?
Uh-huh.
But when Dawid saw that his servants whispered, Dawid perceived that the child was dead. Therefore Dawid said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He's dead. Then Dawid arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself.
Now, this thrown people off because this is normally when that starts to take place. So now they're ready for him to mourn, but he's already been mourning. Go ahead.
And changed his apparel and came into the house of Yah and worshiped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him and did eat.
Right.
And he did eat.
So he changed his apparel. So there was a point where he was already fasting and praying for the child. Now he go ahead and dress himself. He's moving to the next stage. Go ahead.
Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that you have done? You did fast and weep for the child while it was alive. But when the child was dead, you did rise and eat bread.
Right, this throwing them off. This is when we normally fast and go through our things. You know, what is this that you're doing? Go ahead.
And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether Yahweh will be gracious to me, that the child may live?
Uh-huh.
But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me.
Right. So then you have this thing why you embrace the period, the place where you are, and do those things to your full ability. Let's go to John chapter 19. Go ahead, brother.
I was just going to say, that last statement that Dawid said, I will go to him, he'll not come on to me. That came to my mind the other night, and I was mentioning that fact, for a parent who has lost a child, that's your biggest motivation to get on this track and get it right so you can go on to him.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Child not going to get stopped at the gate. You don't want to be on the other side of the gate.
Is that my baby? Is that my baby? Oh, I want to know my baby so bad.
Well, you might want to get your life right. Because your baby on that side of the gate.
Look, my baby. Oh, man, he look just like his daddy. Look at that.
Right. Yeah, I need to get on that side of this gate. Go ahead, brother.
Yohanan chapter 19 and verse 38. And after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Yahshua, but secretly for fear of the Yehudis, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Yahshua. And Pilate gave him leave. He came therefore and took the body of Yahshua. And there came also Nicodemus, which at first came to Yahshua by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloe, but at about 100-pound weight.
Mm-hmm.
Then took they the body of Yahshua and wound it in linen clothes with the spice, as the manner of the Yehudis is to bury. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. There laid they Yahshua therefore because of the Yehudis' preparation day, for the sepulchre was near at hand.
So when we deal with the manner of the Yehudim to bury, it is then wrapped in linen and anointed with these spices and whatnot. But you have to also understand that these things have to move at a certain pace. We were also in our own land. There was nothing stopping us from doing certain things. So we have to recognize a few things as we deal with that. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26. Because you have that thing where, some people say, all right, it's a problem, to embalm, because we, of course, deal with what we know from dealing with that in the daughter of Babylon. But let's read a few things. Let's go to Matthew 26, and we're going to read verses 6 through 12.
Verse 6. Now when Yahshua was in Bethany, in the house of Simeon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head, as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much, and given to the poor. When Yahshua understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble you the woman? For she has wrought a good work upon me. For you have the poor always with you, but me you have not always. For in that she has poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial.
She did it for my burial. So this ointment, of course, this is a spiritual thing that is then happening here. But we then see that this ointment of spices is one of those things that is then connected to this burial. So let's go to Genesis chapter 50, because we need to read something and then define that thing as well. Genesis chapter 50, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5.
Verse 1. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. And the physicians embalmed Yisrael. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die in my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan. There shall you bury me.
There shall you bury me. From dust you are, to the dust you shall return. So the embalming has not altered that. He's still going to the ground from whence he was taken. Go ahead.
Now therefore let me go up, I pray you, and bury my father, and I will come again.
Right. And if you read further, it says the same thing about yourself. But what we need to do is, let's go to the next graphic, and brother, read that definition for embalmed.
From H2590, kanat, a primitive root to spice, by implication to embalm, also to ripen, embalm, put forth.
So then, even when we look at embalm, we get again this whole thing of spice. So, so that we don't get into that point where we're chastising ourselves when these things happen, or we are presented to these things. We are presented these things in the daughter of Babylon, because we must do what we have to do the times that we are here. But we understand that that breath returns unto Yahweh, which is that spirit. That body returns unto the ground. When it comes time, Yahweh is going to get both of those things to put them together so that we can stand before Yahshua. And let's go to that last graphic. While we go to that, I want to read Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 1. It says, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. This is our little sister Kanaya Abigail Israel. This is the daughter of Brother Mikael and Sister Lauren from South Carolina. She has passed away, and I want you guys to consider them in your prayers. She has gone through a lot of things. I mean, you know, various operations. She has gone through, I mean, more than what we would go through in a whole lifetime. She's gone through in a year. So we know one thing, and Kish made that point before I can get to it. For Brother Mikael and Sister Lauren, we know she making it to the kingdom. So, you know, just make sure y'all do what y'all got to do so y'all can get there behind her and meet up with your baby. So we will be going to South Carolina on Wednesday, me and Brother Kish, and we will. That is the day of new moon. So we will have new moon. We will not have Bible study that day. So we should be back by that time, Yah's will. But we do ask you guys to offer up a prayer for little Kanaya and for Brother Mikael and Sister Lauren. May Yahweh, you know, be with you guys in your time of hurt. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.